Today, I am joined by Ben Sibley, founder of Independent Analytics and Compete Themes. Ben has been into the WordPress ecosystem since 2010. He started by selling search engine optimization services while still in college in Philadelphia, launched a theme shop that hit over 2 million downloads, and in 2022, pivoted to build independent analytics, privacy first alternative to Google Analytics built directly into WordPress. If you run a WordPress site and you have ever been frustrated with Google Analytics, this conversation is for you. Ben, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to chat.
Thank you, first of all, Ben, for letting me host you in our podcast. We are not really into making a lot of interviews to founders, just to the founders that we find that can share like really insightful hints for entrepreneurs that maybe are starting up, or maybe for veterans that want to know better how the ecosystem is right now. So one difficult question that I think that everyone involved in an interview is going to have one day is a tricky one. So how do you describe yourself, Ben?
Myself as a founder,
Yeah, yourself as a human
in
being.
general, as a human being. Okay. Well, I think I view myself as a creative person, someone who likes to build things. I also am someone who really appreciates freedom, and I like to be able to do what I want to do. I've always been drawn towards entrepreneurship. I've only had one job in my life, working at a grocery store when I was in high school. And then I said, that's enough of that. I need to just strike out and do my own thing. And so I've always been drawn to building things and working for myself.
I'm sure that that will ring a bell to many entrepreneurs that me in my case, I also have like just one job on a corporate law firm and then it started up. So I think that that's going to be really interesting for our audience. And you said that you have like only one job. I remember like checking your bio that maybe that was like cashiering at a grocery store. Is that the
Yep,
case?
you did your research. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And how does someone go from cashiering at a grocery store to building like an analytics platform that actually it's competing with Google?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of steps in between. I got into selling, like you mentioned, SEO services and marketing services in between my years at college. Then when I graduated, I started a business with my co-founder, Andrew. And it was like supposed to be like a support desk, almost like Help Scout, specifically for WordPress theme and plugin businesses. It was our first time really building a product together. We kind of executed well, but the idea was a little bit weird. It didn't come together right. Ultimately, it didn't go anywhere. So we had to scrap it. Then we did our own things. That's when I started learning WordPress theme development, and I launched Compete Themes. Ran that for like 10 years. And then in 2022, me and Andrew got back together and started Independent Analytics. And that brings us to where we are now.
And Ben, let me know, because I mean, like, probably you are referring to Compete Themes, that like
Yeah.
business project that you have like 20 themes, 2 million downloads there. So what made you guys say, okay, we need to build something completely different? Because I mean, like, it's not the same to be building themes than creating something that has so many technical and legal implications as, for example, analytics. And also, I would like to know if the timing was something important or interesting for you guys, because 2022 is like an interesting date. I mean, like just a couple of years after the GDPR was enforced. So that was like luck, or what's strategy from you guys?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. Timing was a huge part of it. So to sort of shape this, when I launched Compete Themes in 2014, that was still a good time to launch a WordPress theme shop, but it was towards the tail end. By 2016, things had already changed quite a bit, and it wasn't a great market to be in anymore. I continued to sort of innovate and try to make that work, but I knew I needed to do something else. And there were a series of other smaller projects I tried, nothing really took off. And I was starting to feel the pressure because, selling WordPress themes was becoming less profitable. My business was relying a lot on SEO, and search engine traffic was getting harder and harder to get. I knew I needed to make something else. And I actually had the idea for independent analytics while I was building a different product. And what I saw was, well, let me also say on a personal side, Andrew and we hadn't worked on a product together in a long time, but he was also, he'd been making Udemy courses, and that marketplace was kind of in the decline. It was getting more competitive. It was less profitable. So we both were ready for something new at the same time. So that's like the first type of timing that worked out, is that the two of us were totally ready to fully commit to something new. And then in terms of the business itself, the larger market force that made this opportunity was the creation of the GDPR. And that caused people, for the first time, at least that I'm aware of, since getting started with WordPress in like 2010, everyone just would install Google Analytics. There's no question about like what analytics you would install. It would always be Google Analytics. So after the GDPR came out, that's when people saw privacy concerns with Google Analytics. People started considering an alternative for the first time. We could have launched in 2020. That would have been even better. We were ready to launch in 2022, and we weren't like the first to market at that point, but we were still early enough to have good timing. And around that same time, Austria made Google Analytics just illegal to use. And now a lot of other countries in the EU have followed suit. And if you want to talk about compelling people to search for an alternative, making it just illegal to use will force them to look for something else. So now we talk a lot when we market our product. The first thing we say now is not that it's a more private solution. That's like the second or third thing we say. Now we say that it's simpler and easier to use, because when we launched, this idea of even looking for something other than Google Analytics was still very new. But over the past 4 years, that's become pretty normalized. And the idea that the alternative is going to have better data privacy is also something that people are just kind of understanding. Like they're showing up already knowing these things. So that is an important part of our product. But now we can talk more about how easy it is to use, and we sort of drive with that in order to get people interested in our product.
So Ben, you basically and Andrew, you launch something that is a plug and play tool for any entrepreneur. And this is like something that I feel that is compulsory for you guys, because you are, as you mentioned in different interviews and blog posts, you're just two people running a product that has over 100,000 active installs. So how does that actually work, like day to day? How do you guys actually manage your day to day? How is like a Monday for Ben? Monday morning.
Yeah, sure. So at a high level, the division of labor is pretty much Andrew is developing full time and I'm doing everything else. And that works great because product development is the most important part of the business. So he gets to focus on that full time, which is that way when I'm doing customer support and other things, I know we're still like making progress. But as for what my hour to hour, what my day looks like, I usually start by jumping into Help Scout, answering customer emails, because again, we have a lot of European customers. They're 5, 6, 7 hours ahead. So, when I start my day, some of them have been waiting for a while. So I don't like the stress of knowing that there's a lot of people waiting on me. So I like to wake up, get into that right away, step aside after that, and then I can do some deep work. And with the support in general, the amount of time I spend on that changes day to day. Some days it's only 30 minutes. Some days it can be hours, depending on if there's really tricky bug fixes and stuff like that. But I try to check like 3 times per day. So if I'm constantly in and out of my inbox, it's, that task switching is brutal. It's so tough to concentrate. So in between that, the work I'm doing, it depends on where we are in the product release cycle. I'm either doing marketing, I'm writing new automation tests, or maybe some other kind of housekeeping or content creation work.
And how did you actually make those kind of automations? Because, for example, Ben, I can relate that when you open a ticket, you answer almost immediately. So I'm curious about knowing if you guys well, you in your case, Ben, if you are using some kind of AI, or what kind of automation do you have like in your Help Scout for being able to be like such a small company, but being able to give support that is like one of the main drains for any business company, like trying to give support. How do you actually make that scalable?
Yeah. So whenever something I do is after answering the tickets is one thing, but then I'll actually go back and I'll look through completed tickets and ask myself, how can I never get this email again? And it's not that I don't like hearing from our customers, but you do have to try to limit support as much as possible. You have to, if you're going to be a small team, you need to scale what you're able to do. And so no matter how small the issue is, I'll try to come up with some way to have them find the answer before they need to contact us, which also makes for a better experience in general. So if there isn't an answer in the knowledge base, then obviously I need to write a new article. If there is an answer in the knowledge base, maybe they searched for something. So let me check what people are searching for on our website. Maybe, for instance, in the past, we had an article about how we don't have a mobile app, but it's responsive. You can use it on your phone if you log into your site. People were still asking me about this, but they were searching for iOS and Android. So they were searching for iOS. They were looking to see if we had an app, but that term wasn't in the article. So all I had to do was put the words iOS and Android in that article, and now people are finding it. So it's not as easy as just writing an article. Sometimes you have to see what they're searching for. Sometimes you add an FAQ. And eventually, I built up this knowledge base and these FAQs that are really robust, and it's answering a lot of people's questions. I'm adding to it all the time. And then as far as automations go, there's like two other lines of defense, let's say. The first one would be adding in an AI chatbot. And I don't know if you remember using chatbots on websites maybe 6 years ago, they were horrible. They were really
Horrible.
bad.
Yeah.
Everybody learned, don't touch that thing, it sucks. And I even tried to make one in the past with one of those tools, and it was a nightmare. But then with the advent of the large language models, these became really, really good. So we use an app called Chatling, and it's trained on our knowledge base. So when I had this idea, because I saw other people doing it, I was like, wait, why don't we do that? And so I already had this knowledge base with over 100 articles in it. I trained it on that, which is very quick. And now the answers it gives, it's not perfect, but most of the time it's really, really good. And it also responds in people's, native language. If someone writes in German, it responds in German and it responds right away. So that was a pretty significant decrease to the amount of support questions I was fielding. And then I don't know if this would count as automation, but then my last line of defense would be pre-written responses. So if I am getting a question repeatedly that I'm having trouble like answering before they get to us, I just add in a pre-written response, and then I can give them a really well thought out reply in, 10, 15 seconds.
There is a related question I want to ask you, Ben, because recently you mentioned, like, I think it was on the interview you have yesterday on the UP product talk, that you were talking about having employees or having like collaborators or people helping in general. And you said something like it's not related to discipline because, for example, there are entrepreneurs that they say, hey, I want to keep this like a solopreneur or a small team. And you talked that you said that you weren't being stubborn with the decision. So in escalating something like independent analytics that you have like thousands and hundreds of thousands of support tickets, and taking into account that you are exploring chatbots and all that kind of things, have you guys started in researching, for example, all these new buzzwords about AI agents? For example, people connecting these chatbots to just a team of AI agents, or is something like you guys are exploring?
Not yet. I honestly am not too on top of like the use of AI agents and things like that. I'm not someone who dives into those things right away. Kind of still on the sidelines. The biggest AI implementation so far has been the chatbot. I know Andrew is dabbling a little bit with using Claude in his programming, but I think we're both still a little bit hesitant with some of these things. I think I probably will be using AI agents more, but I'm kind of on the sidelines watching with OpenClaw. I'm seeing a lot of, a lot of security vulnerabilities, and There's no way I'm going to give AI the chance to just do whatever it wants on my machine, So
Yeah.
I'm sort of seeing what plays out. And once for me, I guess I'm just not an early adopter with that tech. And I don't feel like I'm falling behind. I think people are figuring things out. And once it's a little more mature and figured out, then I'll just jump in once it's easy and get started.
This is an interesting point, Ben, because, for example, when you guys face something like, for example, Andrew with the tech field and you with the strategy and marketing, when you guys face like something that you want to accomplish, or maybe you want to add like a new functionality to the plugin, how do you guys resolve like disagreements? Among you two, like Andrew maybe is just in charge of tech and you are blind to that, or how do you organize and manage all these kind of disagreements, if any?
Yeah. So ultimately, it kind of comes down to, well, a few things. We look at what people are upvoting on our feedback board, and we take into account how often people are emailing us about features. And I'm the one in the inbox, so I've usually got that intel. And I count that a lot more strongly. It's really easy to just see a feature that sounds neat, but you don't really care that much about, and just click an upvote. That's not that strong of a signal. If someone's emailing you, that's a much stronger signal. So we take it more seriously if we get a bunch of emails about something. And so I'm taking that feedback, sharing that with him, and then we've got always a huge backlog of features. And there's always a lot of really good stuff too. Like, people sometimes will be like, oh, when are you going to add this or that? It's like, we're going to, like, this is good stuff. We want to add it.
Guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, exactly. It takes a long time to get to all this stuff. And so when in terms of deciding what we're going to build next, at the end of the day, it's not that dramatic because it's a matter of prioritization. And we really don't butt heads very much, to be honest. I think we work really well together. And, I might have pretty strong convictions about, oh, we should do this next for these reasons. But I think even if I am laying out, like, I think this is a good argument for this, I'm at the same time fully ready to immediately change my opinion because I've had strong convictions about different ideas and then been totally wrong. And that's happened to me so many times over my entrepreneurial career where even if I am like, this is clearly the best thing to do, I'm totally ready to be told, well, look at all these things. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, no, you're right. So I don't think we have a situation where we stick to our guns and I'm saying, no, it's got to be this. And he says, it's got to be this. We both are fully ready to like back down if someone feels really strongly about something. But usually it's really not that intense and we're pretty amicable about deciding what to build next.
That's one top one skill for any entrepreneur, because if you are not open to change, I mean, like, it's not going to be an easy path for you. So usually we get like questions very related to all legal issues related to online businesses. So I want to give you or ask you a question that we receive quite a lot, but probably you can give like an entrepreneur point of view and not just like a lawyer. The law department is going to say don't do anything. No, yeah, like that's like a common word. So we usually receive questions related to the one of the main pain points of our audience, and is basically that because many of them run digital businesses, many of them are in Europe, and so as they are under the GDPR, what do you think that are like the main things that they should be worried about when it comes to analytics and user data? Because, for example, you guys in your site say that, hey, this is a cookieless plugin. You don't need consent for this. It could have like some nuances depending on what that you actually doing with the tool. So what could you answer to these GDPR conscious clients and audience that says, okay, I'm not sure if I will prefer Google Analytics with a really good CMP cookie banner, or maybe independent analytics. What is exactly the difference, and what are the possible problems facing analytics and data, and how independent analytics is fixing that?
Yeah. So our stance on this has been evolving a little bit. And I think we're shying away from any kind of language that's like, this will be GDPR compliant and things like that, because these laws evolve and there's also different privacy laws across not just different countries, but different states. And so it's our understanding that it's not necessary to have these consent banners with the way that independent analytics works, but we're also working on making it possible that if you say, well, I don't agree with that, like we're not lawyers, we're not trying to give legal advice. So if you don't agree with that, we do have an integration with the compliance plugin that we're going to be adding where you can check a box there and then independent analytics won't track until they consent. And there are options like you can change the salt token refresh rate from, by default, it doesn't refresh. You could change it to every day. So that way it guarantees the same visitor can't be recognized for more than 24 hours. And so we're moving towards this position where we're kind of giving people a little bit of freedom because these laws can be interpreted different ways and we're trying to serve a global audience. We don't want to be saying like, this is correct and this is the way you have to do it because it's not going to be right all the time. So we're moving into a place of a little bit more flexibility for people. From our understanding, the most important aspect is to not be communicating with external servers. And our strategy is to keep things as simple as possible to basically not open up Pandora's box and have to deal with all the complexity. And the best way to do that is to have all of the data created and stored exclusively on your server. Then you don't have to worry about the data processing agreements and different stuff like that. It's on your site and that's it. And then, of course, we don't store personal data and we don't use cookies at all. One concern that we've come across is specifically with, and you'll know the proper terminology for this, but the way that you can cross-reference data between our analytics and another data source. And this has honestly always been an issue, even if no matter what analytics you have, if you have form submissions and analytics, you'll be able to cross-reference in some way. With the user journeys report, it's easier. It's not a new problem, but it is easier. You can see I had a form submission at 2:30 p.m. and it doesn't say in the analytics, nowhere in those data tables does it say who it is, but you can look at your form and be like, okay, that was John. That was John Doe at 2:30. So you can cross-reference. So we have an article where we say, hey, we're not lawyers, this isn't legal advice, but if we were you, we would put a checkbox under all of our forms to say we might be able to, if you submit this form, we might be able to see your geolocation approximately, your device, things like that. And so it's difficult for us to provide that kind of education because, again, we don't want to get into legal advice. That's not our field. And so it's tough to sort of help people with these things, but without getting into a point where we're giving them that advice. But yeah, the cross-referencing is kind of an issue and something that I think people should be aware of.
This brings a question that I think that could be interesting, and probably someone that currently is not aware about the existence of independent analytics may be like questioning or wondering. This is like, for example, you have guys the user journeys, as you said, for example. Okay, maybe you have like millions of visits in your website. You're not aware of who sent a form, but I think that independent analytics is like the perfect fit for SMEs, like small businesses. And of course, you are not having like tons or hundreds of forms being sent like daily. So it's going to be easier for a small business to cross-reference data, but not so much for big companies. So how do you guys face like the objection of problem customers or maybe leads that ask you, hey, how this impacts the performance of my site?
Yeah. So in terms of performance, what people are mostly interested in is the performance impact for people visiting their website. And in that regard, it's pretty simple. We have a tracking script that is deferred, so it doesn't run until the page is fully loaded. And so that means if you look at the website, it appears fully loaded to you, and then the analytics run. So it doesn't slow it down. It's completely invisible to the visitor. And then it also works well with Google's Core Web Vitals. So you can still get a 100 out of 100 score if you use, page speed insights. Our analytics script, it's not render blocking, as they call it, so it's not in the way. And so our perspective is, if Google doesn't care and if your visitors don't care, who's the third party that's going to care if this takes a second or two to load? It doesn't really matter, right? So it's just out of the way, not affecting visitors. It doesn't really matter how many visitors you have. As far as the back end, besides there's that dashboard widget that you can disable if you want. But otherwise, the only place the analytics is really getting queried is in the analytics menu. And so sometimes people have this notion that if they have a lot of data stored, that their website's going to load slower. But the amount of data in your database, it does not matter at all. What matters is how much of that data you're querying. So if you're looking at a post or some other settings menu, that analytics data, it's not getting queried, so it has no impact. It's only when you're looking at the analytics menu where it's loading all that data, that's where it has a performance impact. But for the vast majority of websites, you're talking about waiting 2 or 3 seconds for the analytics to load. And that's it. So it's not like a widespread performance impact. It just means, when you look at the analytics, it takes a few seconds to load.
Yeah.
And for the vast majority of sites, it loads really quickly. If you get, let's say, 10,000 visitors a month, it's no problem. 50,000 visitors, again, no problem. Even a few 100,000 is fine. We don't really see issues until people get up to millions of visitors per month. And at that point, we started saying that it's probably not the best solution for you at that scale because it's just flexing what a WordPress site can do.
I think this is like a great insight because I think that not many people can explain this so clearly. So thank you for bringing that to the table.
Yeah, sure.
I think that is related with something that is, I don't know, I find this quite interesting. I hear that you recently said something like that search engine optimization is done for Ben Sibley. And I think that that's a really interesting point, Ben, because we are talking about how traffic could impact performance, but what's happening with traffic right now? I mean, like with all these AI agents and agentic search and all that. So I think that's a bold statement, but a really legit one. What led you to make a statement like this? Like, hey, I'm done with this.
Yeah, no, it definitely is somewhat a personal vendetta against Google. With Compete Themes, I for a few years, I really scaled that business through SEO, and I was doing it in a way that was very much, I knew it wasn't going to last forever. It was mostly list post, really specific keyword optimization kind of stuff. But, I watched them make an update and say, oh, it's going to affect the search results, but it's not going to affect any individual website that much. And then my traffic drops by 30%. And I'm like, okay, that's not true. And they're always gaslighting people about that, right? And so I watched Compete Themes traffic drop from over the past, 6 years since it spiked in 2020 when they made a few changes that made it higher, right? It was getting 70, 75,000 visitors a month. Now it gets 4,000 visitors a month, right? And some of that was them deprioritizing list post content, but also other pages got less traffic too. And when I look at what's in the search results now, basically what's been happening is that they were making it increasingly hard to rank for keywords with commercial intent. So if you sell vacuum cleaners and someone just search for like vacuum cleaner, like buy vacuum cleaner, like it's a pay to play situation. You need to basically buy ads to show up, or otherwise it's going to be like Reddit results and things like that. Like your website where you sell vacuum cleaners, in those sales pages, they're not going to be in the first page of Google. And you really need to be number 1 or number 2, or you've missed out on 60% of the clicks. That was fine because then you could create informational content. So someone searches for how to get cat hair out of a couch. You write an article about that. That ranks number 1. They see that you sell vacuums, and then you can get customers. But now that Google put AI answers in there, now they've taken over all of these informational queries. So you can't rank for informational queries. You can't rank for commercial queries. All that leaves is navigational and brand queries. So if someone searches for independent analytics, we come up number 1. And a lot of our traffic now is branded traffic because it's about all you can rank for these days. The other solution is just to be on Reddit and on these other websites that do rank well. If you're in the AI result as a recommended product, that might get you traffic, but they're giving these little links to other sites where they got the content from, and we know no one's clicking on those, right?
Yes, exactly.
SEO, I've been an SEO guy for a long time, and everyone always goes, SEO is dead. And I was like, that's not true. But for me, I hit my limit where I'm like, okay, for me, it's dead. Like I'm not going to go out of my way to target keywords or do any of these things anymore because I just don't see the return is so bad. And all the search engine traffic we get is basically just automatic. Like I don't do SEO. Of course, I have title tags and write meta descriptions. I guess you could call that SEO, but I'm not going out and building backlinks anymore. And I'm not really worried about like LSI terms and all these other things. I just sort of let that go and said, okay, I'm going to publish content for our users. And, I'm going
Mhm.
to publish sales pages that sell effectively. I'm going to publish articles that, tutorials that explain how things work really clearly. And if Google wants to show it to people, that's fine. If AI wants to bring them up, that's great. But really purposefully seeking more search traffic seems to be next to impossible for us at this point.
Mhm. Something really legit to mention here, and I want the audience to know this, is that, for example, you guys, I think that you are the one narrating all these videos, but you guys have not only a really nice knowledge base, but online courses about independent analytics, because you could be on your funnel when you sign up for the free account of independent analytics, and you actually receive a full course about how to implement the plugin. And I think that's awesome. I mean, I think it's related with what you said about, hey, we are going to create content for this. And I want to ask you how, search engine optimization is that you are still creating courses to the audience and the customers. So how is so far YouTube working for you? Because, for example, in WordPress ecosystem, and probably it's also the case for SaaS, and I think for many creators, when something is quite niche, I mean, it's going to be difficult to have like a lot of views, a lot of engagement. So is that kind of channel working for you guys, or are you looking into any different channels? I mean, like, how do you guys actually reach so high numbers on the WordPress repository and have over 100,000 active installs currently?
Yeah, so the WordPress plugin repository, getting on there was like the most important thing. That basically guaranteed us some level of constant new user acquisition without us having to spend any time on it. From there, I did, actually still when we launched this business, I did try a lot of my, you know, former SEO tactics. I published around 50 articles targeting different related keywords. And they'd bring in 10 visitors a month each. Like it just wasn't enough and it wasn't leading to downloads. So I did try that. Early on, I reached out to a lot of different other, like if I search for analytics plugin in Google Analytics alternative, I would find other sites with list posts or recommendations. I would email them and see if I could get us included. And then I would give them a backlink from the Compete Themes website. So it's not like this link exchange that's so direct. I added a recommendation inside of all of the themes I made for Compete Themes. So when you install one of my themes, it would say, hey, we made a new plugin for analytics, check that out. And there'd be a button they could install. So that helped drive a lot of installs early on. And then beyond that, a lot of it has been focusing on really effectively converting people who install into either long-term users or customers. And you do that by doing things like an email onboarding series. And a lot of plugins don't do this, but someone is so much more likely to use it and stick with it and then recommend it to other people if are in their inbox every day and you're building trust with them and they realize, okay, this is like a legit company. These are cool people. They're teaching me things. The product works well. So it's a lot of it is about getting everything you can out of what you're already getting. And then over time, we ranked higher in the repository and our page on the repository ended up ranking well in Google. That helped a lot. So it's sort of a secondary form of SEO. And one other thing that really helped a lot early on was um, Paul Charlton of WP Tuts. It's a pretty popular YouTube channel. I just followed him on Twitter and then he was like, oh, I was thinking about doing a video about you guys. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. That would be great. My plan was to follow up in 3 weeks and be like, hey, you still thinking about doing that video? He published one the next day. I was like blown away by that. And literally that video kind of like put us on the map. Like we had the pro version out, we were making some money and that like quadrupled what we were making. And then we just like stayed at that point. So, yeah, getting covered by a YouTube influencer was a huge stepping stone for us.
Hmm. What would you say that is like the key that you achieve? Because, for example, you say that out from branded content, it's going to be difficult to rank in some kind of rankings on browsers. But for example, you guys are famous on Reddit and all these kind of forums, like for example, in the community from UP Managed Ninja, the community from Jewel, Sajahan Jewel, and all the guys from Fluent community, for example, we are like crazy about, hey, one day we wish we have like an integration and so.
Yeah.
And we have here UP Tuts also as a member of that community. So what would you say that is the key for that kind of organic advocacy? Because, for example, I guess that you guys are not on purpose doing like content on Reddit and these kind of communities.
No, yeah, it really is. The most important foundational part of this is building a great product and having really good timing with it. Because if there's already a bunch of other good WordPress analytics plugins, then you make yours and it's not really newsworthy. Like there are other solutions, alternatives that people use outside of WordPress, but the number of like WordPress analytics plugins you can count on one hand. So it's easy to end up becoming one of the considerations. And so by having like a limited number of direct competitors, then building a great product, having good timing, that is what enabled us to grow organically. And then I don't have like like I do these three things and it's going to work for you. It's really like that foundation is the most important part. And then like things like getting covered by a YouTube influencer was really big. Having the plugin page rank well at Google, that helped a lot. A lot of these things, they feel like sort of one-off results that are hard to like tell someone else to do too. The really the most important part is to have this great product with limited direct competitors and enter the market at a good time. And these things will happen organically over time if you're just running your business well and like supporting your customers well and occasionally trying to do some sort of promotion and things like that. And I wish I did have more like concrete examples like, oh, go do this and go do that. But a lot of the things we've spent money on and a lot of the tactics we've used, they haven't worked for us at all. We've tried sponsoring newsletters and paying people to review us on blogs and stuff like
Yes.
that. Those have not worked for us at all. If anything, it's a little bit of brand building or, you get on the radar of someone with influence. So you're paying not just to be in the newsletter, but so the guy who runs the newsletter knows about you. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? But
Yes.
there definitely isn't any tactic where you can just throw money at it and then get a bunch of customers.
Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my research about your activity online and so, I think I remember you said that you guys actually have no marketing budget, but you have like a marketing coach. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah. So we hired Adam Weeks.
Mhm.
He specializes in like brand building for WordPress businesses. We keep him on retainer and we have calls with him every month, a Slack group with him. And
Mhm.
he just helps us sort of stay on track. And he also helps push us to do things that are a little bit outside of our comfort zone. Like I hadn't done any podcasts until he started pushing us to do that. And he's very well connected. So he's gotten us, like I got onto WP Product Talk because he was talking with Matt and said, hey, do you know about these guys?
Mhm.
So having someone like that in your corner to help connect you helps a lot and help push you to do things that you maybe wouldn't want to do or would be a little bit uncomfortable with. That helps a lot. We have like paid YouTubers to sponsor videos and do videos and stuff like that. That like it works sometimes. It doesn't work that well other times. The best ones are the ones where someone just decides to do it on their own, which is funny because you get the best results for the one you didn't pay for. But yeah, a lot of the marketing work that I think is the best and I enjoy the most is more about improving our product and improving our website more so than going out and trying to reach new people.
Mhm. I think this is like a key element, like mentors, so
Mhm.
famous on the marketing field and in the business field. So I think that one question that people hiring mentors usually ask themselves is how you guys measure the return on investment of having like a coach for marketing and not investing. Remember one phrase of one of these mentors that we have, that he said something like, if you have to, well, it was like advertisement, well, it's the price to pay when you are not different. So, okay, has like it's a really punchy phrase. It's true. I mean, like he also told us things like advertising is okay if it's profitable. I mean, like, yeah, you can be motivated to these kind of decisions, but how do you guys measure the return of this kind of investment? If he has like a retainer, how do you guys say, hey, is this actually profitable, or we are like thinking we are active without being actually productive for the business?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you definitely can go back and forth on at times because you're like, okay, wait, I'm the one doing all the work, right? But that's how it works with a consultant. You're paying them for their feedback and their direction. So basically, I look at, would I have done this? Like, no, I did this work well for me, and are we moving in a good direction? The thing is, you've been asking me about like how we were getting these users, how we're growing. And the thing is, when we hired him, I was completely out of ideas. And that kind of comes back to the SEO stuff because that's sort of what I would lean on. I'd be like, I can publish an infinite amount of content. And if these articles get 100 visitors a month, 300, 1,000 visitors a month, we're good. I can scale like that. That was sort of the trick I always had up my sleeve. Then I lost that. I tried a lot of other things on my own, and I was literally out of ideas. And we weren't growing. And I was like, I don't even know what to do. We need direction. And so we hired him for that direction. Ever since we've had him on board, I've had like a list of things to do. And I know that's given us, yeah, it's given us direction, and we're moving again, and we're growing again. So it's not necessarily like we paid him this much and then we made this much kind of thing. It's a much looser connection, which does sometimes make you think, well, should we still keep doing this? But we have been busy in a good way ever since. And also, I just want to circle back to what you were saying about those quotes about advertising, how you need to do that if you're the same. And that is like a lesson I learned from Compete Themes. I had the themes are nice. They're clean, minimalist, content focused, but there's tens of thousands of themes. And so I learned that you can't get word of mouth about a product like that. You can't, they weren't different enough to stand out. So with independent analytics, a lot of these market forces, they work in our favor because you can only count our competitors on one hand. So like going back to what I was saying earlier, choosing a niche with a smaller number of competitors and doing it really well, that lets people do the marketing for you. No one ever recommended my themes on Reddit, but because there's just a few analytics plugins, now people will do that.
I think that you bring also something quite useful when choosing like a mentor, because, for example, I think that online maybe something related to all these Hormozy stuff and all these mentors and stuff, but I think that having a mentor has become something quite transactional. And usually, I mean, like, as you said, maybe you have creators that create a video and it works better than the paid one. And I think that it's something quite similar with mentors, because a mentor is oriented or focused to be a lifetime. I mean, good mentors are with you like on a really, really long-term relationship, and not only like, hey, have a consultancy. And this brings me a question, and it's related to the AI. We, for example, as lawyers, we work with OpenCloud, with agents. We are seeing like face-to-face how AI is changing everything, not only in business, but in consultancy. I mean, like, people is quite scared about how easy it is to deploy this, how risky it is also, but it's actually solving a lot of problems. And one of these problems is related to consultants, to have a brief about tasks to do, having agents organizing everything. For example, related to analytics. Hey, right now, you can ask Cloud Code to create like something. Hey, I have seen independent analytics. I want my own. We can create something similar to this. But all these kind of creations will miss like the philosophy that is behind a tool and a team like you and Andrew. So I would like to ask you how AI is affecting your product and your roadmap, if it's actually, in your opinion, affecting it, or you are like, as you said at the beginning of the interview, not very into that field and not very worried about how this is affecting you.
Yeah, so I actually don't think AI is having that big of an impact on our product class right now. And I've been thinking about this. And so the tracking technology is, I suppose, something you could have Claude create for you, but I don't really see why you would want to do that. It's more the other side of the product is the presentation of that data. And again, I'm not gonna, things are moving so fast. I don't want to take a really hard stand here and be like, I'll be right forever, because things are going to change. But
Yeah.
for now, the way I see it, um, I don't think that like prompting is a good way to access analytics. Um, like, I don't know why you would want to type out how many visitors did I have today, wait a little bit, and then have it be like 73, and then be like, how many visitors did I have yesterday? And then like, well, what are you going to want next? Oh, well, give me a chart of the last 30 days. You're sitting there prompting, getting piecemeal data. You could just look at an interface. Like you're asking the AI to slowly construct an interface from scratch. You could just have the interface right in front of you. Now, if you think you can use AI to build a better interface that works better for you than independent analytics, then sure, I can understand that. But that would be really like a bespoke thing that someone would build for themselves. And in some capacities, you can already do that because you can export any report to CSV, put it into Looker Studio or whatever, and build whatever kind of reports you want. So AI could sort of be the glue that pieces those things together. For now, I don't see a good way that AI would really add a lot more value to the analytics. And also, in terms of privacy, just so no one gets nervous, we will never ever add an automatic integration where your data goes out to one of these AI companies. So that alone is a reason why that'd be something if we advertise that we do that, it would turn off a lot of people. So if anything, it would be a strictly optional sort of thing. But for now, yeah, for now, I think in our case, it's so interface driven that I don't see a good opportunity for AI to really to add value in this case.
I think you bring the key here, that is privacy, because with all these DPAs and so, people is like, I can give all the data from independent analytics to Anthropic, to OpenAI. And no, not really. I mean, like, you could be into trouble with that. So yeah, I think that's a really fair point and a really real one. So talking about future, I think I remember you said something like, I'm not sure if you were referring actually to compete themes or independent analytics or maybe both, but that you are expecting actually to make an exit of the company. So are you guys actually planning to sell the company? And if that is the case, have you been researching who could be like the potential client for that, the potential investor?
Yeah, we're not there yet. When we started this business, we thought, okay, well, what if we let's create this product, let's run it for like 5 years and sell it. Well, now we're 4 years in and we're having a pretty good time, and we just don't really feel the need to sell it right now. I think the plan is eventually to have an exit, but we have not started any kind of formal process to prepare the business for sale, to look for someone to buy. We've gotten some offers here and there, but we haven't really played with that too much. So yeah, for any users who are kind of worried about this, we're not planning on doing anything like that for the foreseeable future.
What do you think, Ben, about this loud secret on the WordPress ecosystem that is like when a plugin is bought by a company, it's dead? I mean, like, what do you think
Yeah,
about that?
that's tricky. Like
Yeah.
you know, you want to sell it to someone who's going to do a good job with it. And then you have to decide exactly what that means, because there are companies that we would be nervous to sell to. There are companies that they will continue to develop it and do a nice job. There are companies that will add new features and do a really good job, but they're also going to slam the interface with a million admin notices about the pro version. And so that there's going to be a lot to consider, and it's not like I don't know, we're not you might not have like the perfect offer. So that'll be something we'll have to broach when we get to it. But of course, we're going to try to do right by our customers and make sure we sell to, definitely not like some random outside venture firm that's never done anything with WordPress, because that would be a disaster.
There is something interesting that many entrepreneurs don't take into account, that is intellectual property and image rights. Because, for example, when you're a solopreneur, you create a business and you start creating content around that business, and then you constitute or make a corporation of that business, and then your image is tied to that business. And then you decide to make an exit, and all this data, all this public image is bind to the company. So sometimes, just like as a lawyer tip there, make sure to sort out your intellectual property and image rights, because you can see yourself like in a couple of years still being the ambassador of a company or a product that has completely changed how they make business, and it's a really tough thing to live as a founder, to see, hey, they are actually destroying the company. So, well, I think it's a tough decision. So I'm happy to hear that it's not yet the moment for independent analytics. Ben, what would you say to a developer, a vibe coder, an entrepreneur that is actually or currently watching us and is thinking about launching their first WordPress plugin? What would you tell them about timing, market opportunity, and yeah, some hints for them to actually have the success that you guys have with independent analytics?
Yeah, so if it's your first product you're releasing, your first WordPress plugin, actually I would say try to get something out there, get some feedback. Don't even plan on that first one becoming like a big business. Just get some reps in, get used to, you know, providing customer support, interacting with customers, learning how to sell products online. And then it's a lot of pressure for your first product to try and like knock it out of the park. So that first one I would almost recommend and trying to just have more fun with it. But to try and build a substantial business out of a plugin, reaching a market with limited competitors. Like if you search in the repository and maybe also outside the repository, if you can find direct competitors that you can count on one hand, that's a really good sign. And you'll be able to rank in the repository well that way. I'd say that plus having good timing is really important. It's really, really important. You know, the best time to make a WordPress plugin or theme was like 18 years ago. Back then, you know, people would make themes that looked and just sell them only on their own website, and they weren't even that great, and they'd be making, you know, all of a sudden they're making 40 grand a month just from a couple themes. So it was a gold rush, right? That would have been a great time. Now, the timing for a WordPress product, there's nothing special about it. It's already very competitive, but you can have good timing in your niche, right? So if you're trying to launch like a backup plugin and it's just like a WordPress thing, you're gonna have a really hard time standing out. There's a lot of competition. But for us, this was in that I'm calling analytics our niche, right? It was a great time because people went from not searching for any alternatives to Google to suddenly everybody's looking for an alternative. So the market was created and we had good timing. So if you want to build a substantial business with a WordPress product, look for a niche where you can have that sort of good timing and a limited number of competitors.
I will also say here that, for example, you guys have like the perfect timing with the GDPR, and many businesses actually start up when a big compilation of regulation is going to be up. And here in Europe, for example, in a couple of months, 6 months from now, we are going to have the AI Act. So, hey, maybe that's also a really sweet spot for creating something new and
Mm.
something that solves actually problems. Okay, all right, Ben. As I warned you, this is the easy part is done in our podcast. We'll like to ask some, let's say, curious questions, introspective questions. So, are you ready, Ben?
Yep, let's do it.
Yeah. Imagine, Ben, that you find Aladdin's lamp, that kind of lamp that gives you like 3 wishes. So you have everything allowed, no negative consequences. What will be the 3 wishes that would you ask for right now? But 3 wishes for Ben, not for the world or for anyone else. Just 3 wishes for Ben. What will be?
Man, that is a tough question.
I know.
Okay, 3 wishes. You know what? I always feel like I don't have enough time. I hate feeling like time poor. I don't know what I would wish for exactly. I would say more time in my day, or maybe just absolve me of that feeling of not having enough time. Maybe that would be number one. This is tough because it's not just business, is it? It's just anything in life. Okay. Number two, Gosh, the time thing, that's a big one. Number two, world peace. That'd be great. Can I do that?
It's just for Ben, not for the world,
Just for
sadly.
me? Okay, just for me. Okay. Yeah, I would love to have more time. That's the thing that's really coming to mind is I don't like the fact that I a lot of times finish my day and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't get to this, I didn't get to that." Even things that leisure things too. Yeah. Maybe if I could sleep 1 hour a night and feel really, really good, that would be a good one. And then maybe a third one would be anyone who has a bug with our product or they have some sort of issue, it just automatically resolves itself. And then it's just fixed. Yeah, that would be good.
Really, really interesting. How will be Ben your life with infinite time? I mean, like all your time problems are solved. You have the skill to feel great whenever you want, just as just approaching a button, and any bug is automatically being fixed. Let's say that one night you wake up and develop an AI or a program or a plugin that solves all of that. How will your life be different from now?
Oh, man, so I've just got all this time to myself. Man, I would spend a lot of time taking care of myself. I like to work out, to cook for myself, to eat well and all these things. I hate when I have to sacrifice those things for work and stuff like that. Obviously, spend more time with friends and family, travel a little bit more, and put time into hobbies and things like that. Actually, what I want to do after independent analytics is that I do a game development on the side, and that's kind of the goal. Once we sell independent analytics, I'm just going to try and go full time with game development, and that's something I really enjoy and would love to have more time for.
What kind of games will you be developing quite soon, I guess?
I like strategy games. I like roguelike games. I play lots of different indie games. I am in my free time a little bit right now working on a puzzle game. That's kind of like do you play the New York Times games at all?
Not really. I have recently
Okay.
came from Japan after I've been like a gamer myself, like
Wow.
almost 15 years ago, and
Okay.
I bring back my gaming skills as like 1 year ago, and I think that Japan has a lot to do with that. So no, I'm into gaming, but just for a couple of months ago, so not very into that.
Okay, yeah. Are you playing like JRPGs and stuff like that?
I'm just actually came. We have the chance to meet a lot of really interesting people, because, for example, when we talk about developing games, we can be thinking about people in charge of animation, people in charge of development, story, all that kind of stuff. But when I was in Japan recently, I met full teams of translators of these games. And it was a really, really nice experience because they are, like, for example, uh, working on Jotai, games from Capcom, Resident Evil, and they were working into that. I think it was this week that the Resident Evil was launched, and these people were working into that. So it was
Yeah.
like a really nice experience, and it caught my attention to say, "Hey, these people is living gaming from a quite different point of view," and it really attracted myself to that field. So I'm going to follow you, Ben, about your projects with indie game development, because I think that entrepreneurs have some kind of sense or maybe emotion of feeling guilty, not being productive, or maybe doing things that are not actually productive for the business. I mean, like if I have some leisure time or I want to let steam out, I'm going to do something for the business. And I think that video games is going to be something quite interesting when we are in this new era that I think that we are, with AI and people and governments talking about having like a rent, and people having no actually options for jobs and all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
and people being able to develop businesses so quick, so fast. And I think that video games industry is going to make a shift with this kind of AI stuff, at least for what I have seen in Japan and with all these AI developments. I have seen people developing really, really cool games and publishing them on Steam and making a business so fast that, yeah, I think that if you're an entrepreneur and you love gaming, why not just launch to that and make no wait for that. I mean, yeah, as I said, Ben, I will be following your activity with that.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. It's just it's something, it's fun, it's an escape. It's
Hmm.
very satisfying actually to put something together one piece at a time like that. And yeah, it's always been an interest of mine ever since I was young. I was playing a Game Boy the moment I could hold one.
Yeah. Ben, another tricky question related to
Okay.
our program. If there was a machine that could remove all your fears, what will be 3 fears would you ask it to take away from you?
3 fears. Okay. Let's see. First one is, but I get travel anxiety and I've gotten a lot better, but I would love to just not have any kind of anxiety around traveling at all. That would be really great. Social anxiety too. I guess these are more anxieties, but that's kind of the same thing as a fear, right? I get anxious, meeting new people, going into a room with a bunch of people I don't know, things like that. To not have any of that, that would be really fantastic. Um, and then maybe also like this is a simple one, but fear of heights. I'm actually deathly afraid of heights, and it'd be really nice to like I have friends who rock climb and stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't know about that because that's not my type of thing. That'd be a nice fear to get rid of.
And what do you think about how will be your life without these 3 fears?
Man, I think there are definitely opportunities that I have turned down because of those fears, and I think probably more than I know because I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way too much to explore an opportunity that would involve some of those fears. And I guess my ultimate fear would be like traveling to like a cocktail party on the side of a cliff would be line up with my fears. But maybe I would go seek out things like that.
Do you have any example of, hey, maybe this fear of mine has left me behind this?
Yeah. Oh, so how about me and Andrew are going to be going to the WordPress conference in April. I've never been to a conference. I shy away from those types of things. Everyone's always surprised. They're like, did you go to WordCamp? I'm like, no, I've never been to WordCamp. And I've been in the WordPress space for a long time, but I just sort of shy away from those types of things. The idea of kind of networking and stuff like that. I've never been good at it. Always makes me anxious. So that would have been good if I'd gone to some of those. So now I'm pushing myself to go to some of these types of events and conferences and, come on podcasts and stuff like this and put myself out there a little bit more.
I think that you are succeeding in that fear path because I have seen that you have been into many podcasts recently, many streams. So what exactly makes you anxious about the future, Ben? Is there something that makes you feel especially worried about how the future is developing?
Yeah, I mean, I always worry about like, what if people just stop buying? Right? It seems sometimes it seems so plausible. It's like, really, what if like what if everyone who wanted our product just bought it and then that's it? And now we just have to, you know, close up shop and it's over. So every once in a while I'll kind of get stuck on something like that. But ultimately that's a scarcity mindset, right? And you have to try to shift back to a mindset of abundance and be like, no, there's tens, hundreds of millions of WordPress websites, lots of customers out there, new people using it all the time. And that fear it's not even really based on the specifics of the scenario. It's just like that lizard brain, being like, when's our next meal going to be? What if we don't have something to eat? It's that same type of, low level thinking. So I just try to dismiss that and move on from it.
Actually, you never know if the next big opportunity is behind the door and you became a great indie game developer or entrepreneur. So, I mean, what will happen? Well, probably nothing, and it's everything in our heads.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been scared actually about specific features that we're going to launch with independent analytics. I'm like, what if we get this wrong and everybody hates it, and all of a sudden there's a revolt and people are like, no, it's not privacy friendly anymore, or
Yeah.
it's too complicated now, and Yeah, I've had those fears and then they don't tend to come true.
I think that we entrepreneurs, well, actually, we human beings, we are not ready for the social media impact. I mean, like, there is a lot
Yeah.
of studies and research that when we surpass the 150 people, I mean, like, these people is going to overwhelm us. So I feel this, maybe you also as a creator and famous founder, and maybe you are facing also this kind of hate comments. You can get lost in all of that because I think that we are not, our brain is not ready for so much input. So yeah, mental health, I think that is a really important lesson that we have to learn from all of this digital era. Ben, picture this. Imagine that you are in your room and there is like a flashlight and an archangel, an entity appears and says, "Hey, Ben, I'm here to answer one question to you about the universe." What would you ask to that angel, archangel, entity? What will be your question?
Well, yeah, I think it would be, what happens when I die? Yeah, I think that'd be the big question that I'd want to know.
Imagine, Ben, that someone dressed you in white, take you to a balcony, and the whole world is waiting for your big message. Just step out and say, "Hey, my children," what will be your message to all that audience from that balcony?
You're not joking. These are hard questions.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, do I have anything important enough to say to everyone on earth right now? Oh my God, this is tough. What would I tell everybody? What do we need right now? I guess my mind is going to a place right now where there is a ton of division right now. I think that is also multiplied by social media, by highlighting and promoting outrage. And, a lot of folks are really not so different. And almost like it's, with like sports, it's fun to create a strong rivalry and to hate the other team. There's the part of us that almost enjoys that. And when you break it down and we're all, oh, okay, they're all the same, we're all the same, it maybe in some ways is less satisfying to people in a weird way. But everyone is kind of the same and wants really similar things from life. I think maybe that's the message I would share.
Ben, you can take your time here, or you can make it like, like fast answering and fast replying. But could you share with us 3 moments in your life, in any order, chronologically, good or bad, that marked before and after in your life, like a life-changing event, 3 life-changing events. But there is a rule here for answering, and is that you have to be excluding any deaths, any births, and beginnings or endings of relationships.
Okay. Maybe the first one would be maybe like my first day at college. I went to Temple University here in Philly, and that first day was so bizarre because you don't know anybody, but everybody around you also doesn't know anybody. So it was this time where like, you feel kind of desperate to make friends, but so is everybody else. So everyone is super open to just say hi to someone and they're like, hi. And they like want to talk to you and want to get to know you. And well, I guess not supposed to be about relationships, but that is how I met Andrew and like all my closest friends. I don't know if that violates the rules, but that'd be maybe a first moment. Second formative moment, I was actually just kind of talking to my wife about this early on. After Andrew and I's first business failed shortly after college, I went through a really tough phase where I was starting to compete themes and I was, I would spend months creating a theme. I would submit it to Theme Forest and I would get an email back saying, no, sorry, it's rejected. And it would hit me like a truck, and then I would make another one. And that happened like 3 or 4 times. And I kept thinking, man, if this next one gets rejected and I'm still, haven't gotten anywhere with this idea, I don't think I'm going to be able to continue. And then it would get rejected again. And I would be like, well, I guess I'm just going to do it again, actually. And so I thought I was going to quit, but I just kept going and I just kept doing it and eventually released them on WordPress.org instead. But that was pretty formative for me because I thought I knew what my limit was, and then I just kind of kept going regardless. And I learned that, if you're dedicated to something, you're just going to do it. And it kind of doesn't matter if it doesn't go well. You're just going to keep doing it. And if you keep doing it, if you have that perseverance, it is going to work out. And then Well, the third one was going to be like when I met my wife, but I guess I'm not allowed to do that. Um, try to think of a good third one. I'm still very much locked into like a professional mindset right now.
Mhm.
Um, but um, maybe another good one would be, shoot, I'm getting really stuck without using relationships. Well, I'll just stick to my early 20s. When I eventually made enough with Compete Themes so that I could come back to Philly and, pay my own bills and be my own boss. And that was ultimately the goal, right? Of course, making millions of dollars and all that stuff, that's always been like, sure, that'd be great. But the goal was really just to pay my own bills, have my own place. And so I remember the first night in my apartment, and I had this chair in the living room, and I had it pushed into the middle of the living room, and I had like this TV stand with like this 22-inch television I had from college, and I had the chair and the TV stand just pushed into the middle of this room, and I ordered Chinese food, and I watched True Detective, and I just sat there with the lights off, eating Chinese food, watching HBO. Like, this is the life. I did it.
It was your turn, finally, your own space. So, how will you summarize or describe what have you discovered about these three events? What, how was Ben before these events, and what changed? What has you discovered that has changed from the previous version of Ben that, for example, was worried or afraid about rejection, about not making friends at first? What was your main discovery with these three events?
Yeah, I would say that, I had friends in high school, but I also spent a while just having a lot of acquaintances, being popular in terms of like people knowing me, but then like not getting invited to things outside of school and stuff like that. So I think with college, it was this thing where like I wanted to make like really good close friends, and that was kind of a goal and something I was able to do, to forge like strong relationships and go get over this insecurity of almost like people don't want to be close to me, or people don't take me seriously, or something like that. And then, with building my business after graduation, I would say that was about finding what I'm made of, digging deep, persevering, and realizing there's a certain level of security with knowing that even if something fails, you're just going to keep going. You lose that anxiety of like, if I fail, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's like, well, if I fail, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this again. So there's, that was a good thing to learn for myself. And then, well, I guess I don't have as big of a lesson for the third one. The third one was more of just like a personal triumph.
Like everything will be fine.
Yeah, everything's going to work out. Yeah.
So, last tricky question then. Imagine that you could go back to your 10-year-old Ben, and you walk into his room and say, "Hey, Ben, I'm you from the future, and I came to tell you this." What will you say to your younger version?
Oh man, I would say just get out of your comfort zone more, pursue things pursue things you're passionate about. And also, if you can just get really good at one thing, then you'll be set for life, basically, instead of dabbling with so many different things. But yeah, just get out of your comfort zone more, try more things.
Ben, I have the two last questions from this great episode that has been so great so
I like
far.
the balloons. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't on purpose, but it was the
Okay.
perfect timing.
It
So
seemed like it was.
yeah, it was. I have just two last questions. The first, and I think that the most important one, is where can people find you online and find independent analytics online? And also, who would you like us to invite on our next show of the podcast?
Okay, so I would say you can go to independentwp.com to check out independent analytics. We're also on X at analyticswp. You can find us on Facebook, all the other platforms. We've got a presence there if you want to check us out. I don't have personal social media accounts really, but you can look me up. You can email me through benjaminsibley.com if you want to chat. As for the next person I think you should have on, that is a tricky one. Well, actually, it'd be cool if you had one of the folks from WP Product Talk on here. If you had Matt or Ian on here, I'm sure that'd be pretty cool.
You have the camera in front of you, so make an invitation to them.
All right. Hey, Matt, why don't you come on next and share your opinions and advice about how to build a business here on Jorge's podcast?
What will be your specific question to Matt? We can miss
Man.
in our next episode with that.
Yeah, I would be super curious to learn about the early days of the company he created, Give WP. How did you come up with that idea, and what did that first year look like?
Awesome, Ben. Thank you very much for all this time together. Thank you for letting me hosting you in our program. And we will leave all your information from independent analytics in the description of this program. Leave all the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you soon in the next episode. Goodbye.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. See ya.